Following another misunderstanding, Marica's affection meter has evolved into a new, troublesome form with menacing arms. Elsewhere, Kanata whispers to Mikasa, asking what's going on with Marica. Flustered, Mikasa retorts that she should be asking him the same question about his recent interaction with the president. Unseen by them, the president herself peeks around a corner, having heard the commotion. Marica grabs Kanata. She demands to know what happened between him and the president in the gym. A flashback reveals the president's over-the-top, panicked reaction to being trapped in a room with a boy. The president slyly declares that what happened is a secret, making the situation even more suggestive. Kanata whispers frantically, asking why she's phrasing it like that, but she ignores him. She announces it's time to prepare for the other students and walks away with him. This leaves a suspicious Marica and Mikasa staring after them. Later, as the outdoor drill begins, Kitami expresses his relief to Mikasa after completing his task. Nearby, Kanata asks Mikasa for an update on Marica, who whispers back that Marica is currently busy trying to intimidate Kitami, her affection meter growing menacingly. Kanata decides he needs to clear up the misunderstanding with Mikasa first. He explains that the earlier hug situation was nothing of the sort. Understanding, Mikasa agrees to share her side of the story. In a flash forward, she thanks Kanata for his help as another boy approaches. Kanata joins his own group, where his classmates Yamato Nikki and Niino Hidaka greet him. Niino is especially happy they're all in the same group. Yamato voices his concern to Kanata about sharing a tent with Niino, worried about the implications. Overhearing them, Niino pouts, asking why she's being left out. Yamato comically worries that his sexuality might be warped by the end of the night. Yamato acknowledges that Kanata is loyal to Chitos. He asks Kanata if something happened. Kanata realizes he needs to figure out his next move to fix the situation. Yamato advises him to explain himself properly. Resolved to clear up all misunderstandings, Kanata gets encouragement from Yamato. He is suddenly approached by Niino, who asks if he's fighting with Marica. Before he can properly answer, Niino gives him a big hug from behind, cheerfully calling it a British-style greeting, creating yet another misunderstanding. Kanata announces that all groups should begin cooking their curry. He reminds everyone to be careful during preparation. Once he's finished with his rounds, he thinks he is done. He is then surprised by a voice behind him. Kanata is shocked to see that his group has already finished preparing the curry. Yamato tells him that since he has free time, he should go play. Instead, Kanata decides to go check on Marica. He spots her in the distance. Kanata cautiously calls out to Marica. Suddenly, he's gripped by the muscular arms of her affection meter. Before he can react, he is unceremoniously flung through the air. Landing in a heap, Kanata wonders what just happened. He looks up and is horrified to see Marica's meter leaking directly into the pot. A strange purple liquid drips into the curry she is stirring. The pot begins to glow, resembling a high-rarity item from a video game, as one of the girls with Marica questions the strange color. Kanata resolves that he must talk to Marica. However, he finds he can't get close due to the menacing aura of her meter. Mikasa asks Marica if she added food coloring, commenting on the curry's strange appearance, but Marica insists she didn't put anything in. Despite its appearance, the girls agree that it smells delicious and looks quite photogenic. However, one of them still finds it obviously suspicious. The president checks on the group's progress, while Kanata, watching from afar, worries about Marica's group. Meanwhile, Kanata's own group, dubbed the Kitchen Boys, reports their success, though Kanata himself didn't do anything. He is then startled by someone. The president appears, announcing that it's time for the groups to exchange curry via lottery. She calls on Kitami to draw first, who has a horrible feeling about it. His fear is confirmed when he draws a slip pairing his group with Chitos's group, and he laments the president's knack for stirring up trouble. By a stroke of luck, Kanata's group receives the girls' normal curry, and Marica is ecstatic, praising Kanata's cooking genius. Mikasa also finds it flavorful, remarking that a man who can cook is wonderful. The third girl mutters that Kanata had nothing to do with making it, though she admits it's tasty. Meanwhile, Yamato teases Kanata about being happy to get Chitos's curry. He then recoils in shock at the iridescent gaming curry. Niino, however, finds the colorful curry to be cute and beautiful, immediately snapping photos with her phone as Kanata looks on, concerned. Kanata resigns himself, figuring a girl's cooking is hard to come by. Before he can stop her, Niino takes a bite. Her eyes light up with delight. She declares it's incredibly delicious, convincing a skeptical Kanata and Yamato to try it themselves. Both Kanata and Yamato are overwhelmed by how good the curry tastes. Kanata privately marvels that the purple goo was not only edible, but also delightfully delicious and likely the secret ingredient. He turns to Niino and tells her how amazing it is. Suddenly, Niino leaps up and hugs a startled Kanata, letting out a loud meow. She begins acting like a cat, freezing when Kanata calls her name, who asks what's gotten into her, realizing something is very wrong. Kanata turns to Yamato for help, only to find him petrified in his chair as if his soul has left his body. The horrible truth dawns on Kanata: there really was something wrong with the curry. He clutches his chest, as he feels a strange sensation taking over him as well. As the strange feeling intensifies, Kanata feels a gentle embrace from behind. He looks up in shock to see a serene, goddess-like figure. He realizes with confusion that it's Marica. In the last chapter, Kanata and the boys ate Marica's strange soup. His heart begins to thump wildly as he feels unwell. He clutches his chest, realizing something is happening to him. The girls finish their curry and give thanks for the meal. A student council member approaches, needing to speak with Chidos and Mikasa. Sayuki tells them to go ahead, offering to manage the cleaning for them. Chidos gratefully accepts Sayuki's offer. Suddenly, Kanata embraces a shocked Sayuki from behind. He offers to help her out, leaving her stunned. Recalling a dream about marrying him, she asks if this is real, and he confirms it is. She confronts him about his drastic change in behavior, but he calmly states that people can change. As he holds her, she squirms and tells him to stop because it tickles. Her thoughts spiral as she wonders what has happened to Kanata and if he could possibly like her. Flustered, she recalls her wedding dream, considering that it might have been a premonition. Her affection meter explodes as she realizes this could be it. Declaring she is at her limit, she faints from the excitement. Carrying the fainted Sayuki, Kanata greets a stunned Kokona. He places Sayuki down inside the tent. He then turns and slams his hand against the wall, cornering a startled Kokona. Kanata explains that Sayuki had suddenly lost consciousness. Kokona is internally panicking, wondering why Kitami is pinning her against the wall. He explains that he took care of Sayuki, but Kokona is too flustered by his closeness to focus. She shouts for him to leave her alone. He leans in closer and whispers that he doesn't want to leave her. She is completely taken aback by this sudden development. She internally screams about the massive personality gap. She mentally categorizes his transformation from a cool character to a dog-like boyfriend type, finding it all too much information to process. She can't believe she was so easily persuaded. She wonders if she is that easy of a woman. Panicking, she tries to regain her self-control, worried she'll be attacked by him like this. Kanata grabs Kokona just as she's about to swoon. He sighs in relief, thinking he caught her in time. However, his action causes them both to topple over onto Sayuki. Marica realizes her errand took longer than expected and decides to return quickly. She sees the other students paired up and thinks it's nice that they get to spend the night with the person they like. In contrast, she feels she was cruel to Kanata. Marica's inner thoughts take over. Devil Marica insists that Kanata is at fault for hugging another woman. Angel Marica suggests there might be something else going on. Devil Marica angrily retorts that he doesn't care who the girl is and attacks her angelic counterpart. Devil Marica claims that high school boys are just lust-incarnate monkeys, much to Angel Marica's dismay. Suddenly, a third persona, nice middle-aged Marica, appears, suggesting that fights between men and women usually happen because they haven't talked things through. The advice hits a nerve, and she suggests Marica should focus on telling Kanata her true feelings. The real Marica freezes, realizing her other self has a point. With her internal conflict resolved, Marica steals her resolve to confess to Kanata. She then spots Kanata in the distance. Kanata strikes a pose and welcomes Marica back, leaving her to wonder what's happened to him. He says he thought she looked lonely by herself. Confused, Marica asks about the whereabouts of Toyotomi and Kokona. He nonchalantly mentions those two. He tells her not to worry, as it's just the two of them now, which confuses her further. She asks him to explain the situation. Marica senses something is strange about Kanata, feeling they aren't on the same wavelength. Kanata tells her there's no need to worry. Marica thinks that while she's happy about his behavior to an extent, something is off. She declares that this isn't the real Kanata as the meter's menacing arms lunge at her, which she deftly parries. Kanata calmly asks the meter to please move aside. The meter's arms strike a pose as the gauge maxes out. He then begins to close in on a startled Marica. He accidentally steps on a banana peel. He slips and falls dramatically. Marica rushes to his side to see if he's okay. Before he can respond, a glob of the purple meter goo falls from the sky and into his open mouth. Kanata swoons from the overdose as Marica cries out his name in alarm. Marica panics, wondering what to do. She calls out for Toyotomi and Kokona, desperate for help. Her friends stumble out, looking dazed and beaten up, adding to Marica's confusion. The next morning arrives. Kanata wakes with a start, confused as to why he is sleeping outside. Yamato also wakes up, looking completely out of it. Meanwhile, Niino awakens to the shock of finding herself on top of a tree. Kanata offers a hesitant greeting to the girls. To his shock, they all snub him. The girls' affection meters are all going wild, as Marica realizes the situation is bad. Kanata is left completely baffled, wondering what on earth happened. Kanata soaks in the bath, feeling utterly exhausted. He has gaps in his memory and his entire body aches, recalling that he somehow slept outside. Deciding he needs to rest up for school, he starts washing his hair. Suddenly, Kanata notices his reflection looks different, more handsome and defined. He stares in shock, wondering who he is looking at. His reflection smirks back, introducing himself as the other Kanata that resides within him. The reflection explains that this is Kanata's handsome side. Confused, Kanata demands to know why this other personality has only just appeared now. In response, his reflection tells him to watch a video to understand the reason. The video is a flashback to the disaster prevention training. Kanata recalls Marica creeping closer with her strange, drooling concoction. In a moment of clumsiness, he slips and falls. The purple goo lands directly in his mouth. Kanata is horrified to realize what he drank. His reflection explains that this incident is what caused his handsome side to be born. He's reminded of what happened to Niino and Yamato after they ate the RGB curry, noting how toxic it looked. Worried, Kanata wonders what will happen if Marica's meter gets any worse. His alter ego confidently states that all Kanata has to do is win Marica's heart. This, he claims, will return her distorted feelings back to normal. Overwhelmed and exhausted by the conversation, Kanata decides he's had enough and tries to get out of the bath. He slips on the wet floor. The fall knocks him unconscious. As the doorbell rings, he wakes up. His eyes blink open, revealing a sharp, confident gaze. He finds himself sitting up in his bed at dawn. The next morning, Kanata greets his mother, who asks if he's feeling okay. He reassures her that he's completely fine. His father then comments that he looks rather handsome today. Looking at his reflection, Kanata realizes his alter ego has taken control of his body. His handsome alter ego realizes that hitting his head must have caused them to swap places. The original Kanata's spirit protests, trapped and helpless. Now in control, he confidently declares that he will win Marica over. Meanwhile, Marica walks to school, reflecting on how strangely everyone acted during the disaster prevention training. Dismissing it as a strange dream, she hopes for a normal, uneventful day as she greets her classmates. Kanata greets Marica, who is taken aback by his appearance. She notes that he seems much taller and different from usual. He coolly brushes it off, suggesting he's simply grown taller overnight. Marica finds his new demeanor strange. From the doorway, other girls whisper amongst themselves, captivated by Kanata's new look. Marica calls out to them, asking if they are coming in. They blush, admitting he looks cooler than usual. Marica reluctantly agrees that Kanata does look cooler. The other girls are completely smitten by his presence. Kanata smoothly asks the ladies why they are acting so strange, flustering them further. Their teacher arrives, reminding Kanata that homeroom is about to start. With that, Kanata's passionate approach began. Throughout the day, he performed various chivalrous acts, from placing his handkerchief on a bench for Marica to buying her food. He even presented her with a bouquet of flowers, leaving her utterly bewildered. Holding the flowers and bread, Marica broods over Kanata's strange behavior. However, her thoughts take a positive turn, as she concludes he must be trying his best to get her attention. She decides that his efforts are incredibly cute. She sighs, admitting to herself that she prefers the usual Kanata and wishes things would go back to normal. Later, Marica returns to the classroom, still clutching the flowers. Chidos, who is also in the room, correctly intuits that Marica is having romance issues, surprising her. Chidos points out Marica's lovesick expression and offers some advice. Flustered, Marica claims she's speaking for a friend. After listening for a while, Chidos summarizes the situation. Marica's friend wants Kitami-kun to go back to normal so she can approach him without being bothered. Chidos panics internally. Despite offering advice, she has absolutely no dating experience. She spends her time reading fantasy novels. However, determined to uphold her credibility as the student council president, she resolves to see this through. An idea strikes Chidos. She pulls out a book and tells Marica that reading it will make her a master of love. Intrigued and desperate, Marica readily accepts the offer. She pulls out the book, wondering what kind it could be. The book is a boys' love manga titled I Fell in Love. Marica is utterly shocked, and her affection meter erupts. Despite her initial reaction, she cautiously begins to read, peeking at the pages with a blush. Marica becomes completely engrossed, finding the story amazing. Chidos observes that she's totally infatuated. Seeing Marica's reaction, Chidos decides to show her something else and presses a hidden button. The bookshelf rumbles ominously. The bookshelf slides away to reveal Chidos's secret library, a stash of adult and teen love manga. Marica is stunned. Chidos explains that in every one of these stories, the female lead gets pushed down by a guy, which shocks Marica even more. Meanwhile, the handsome Kanata is looking for Marica after school. His original self pleads for him to just go home. He runs into Hinami-senpai and greets her. He asks Hinami if she has seen Marica, but she doesn't know where she is. Kanata and Hinami enter the room. They find Marica, who looks up flustered. With Chidos's lessons fresh in her mind, Marica shyly asks Kanata if he would like to go home with her. Her forwardness amuses Kanata's alter ego, who readily agrees, much to the original Kanata's horror. After school, Kanata, now possessed by his handsome alter ego, walked home with Marica. His original self, trapped as a spirit, wondered how things had escalated so quickly. The new Kanata, however, relished the appearance of his other, more handsome personality. Kanata noticed that Marica seemed different from her usual self. He immediately blamed the student council president for her change in mood. The original Kanata's spirit panicked, wishing the two would just go home. His alter ego, however, simply agreed to their departure. Instead of heading home, Kanata's alter ego suggested an after-school date at the department store, much to the original Kanata's dismay. Marica happily agreed to the idea, having taken the bait. Unbeknownst to them, a girl with white hair spotted them from a distance. Sayuki hid behind a bush, mistakenly identifying the girl with Kanata as Chidos and musing that they looked like they were on a pleasant date. She tried to convince herself it was none of her business and that she should maintain her own pace with him. Ultimately, she decided that a little bit of following would not hurt. They arrived at the department store. Sayuki followed them inside, immediately exasperated when Kanata headed straight for the toy corner. However, she noticed that Marica seemed to be having fun, making her question if it was a good date spot after all. Kanata got a toy from a capsule machine that Marica recognized as one he likes. He began rambling excitedly about the character's story. Sayuki, watching from afar, was frustrated by his behavior until she remembered passionately explaining her new frying pan to Mashiro, realizing she was just as nerdy. Their date continued to a clothing store. While Kanata waited on his phone, Marica was in the changing room. Sayuki peeked from behind a rack, wondering if Marica was trying on clothes. Marica then announced she was finished. Marica emerged in a beautiful white dress and asked how she looked. Kanata praised her enthusiastically, calling her flawless and adorable, which baffled Sayuki. Pleased, Marica asked if she could try on more outfits, and Kanata happily agreed. Marica tried on several different outfits, with her affection meter rising each time. Watching the cliché scene unfold, Sayuki wondered what she herself should wear. Kanata continued to call her stunning, which Sayuki found uncreative. Sayuki conceded that Marica looked cute in anything, understanding why she was so popular. After Marica was done, Kanata announced that he wanted to try something on too, which Marica looked forward to seeing. Sayuki gulped in anticipation, wondering what kind of clothes he would choose. Kanata emerged in a wild, edgy outfit, asking for their opinion as Sayuki's affection meter for him froze. Sayuki thought it was completely out of style and worried about Marica's reaction. To her surprise, Marica, blinded by love, found it excellent. To Sayuki's disbelief, Kanata bought the outfit, even if it meant dipping into his New Year's money. This changed her perspective. She wondered if he was the type to plan ahead and save, causing her own affection meter to rise. As Kanata and Marica left the store happy with their purchase, Sayuki decided it was alright as long as they were having fun. Sayuki became flustered, realizing she was cheering for them when she should not be. Conflicted, she continued to follow them as they headed towards the arcade. Kanata won Marica a teddy bear from a claw machine, and they took a cute photo together. Sayuki was surprised, thinking it had turned into a normal, nice date. She felt a strange sense of pride that he was behaving himself. However, her relief was short-lived, as Kanata suggested they go to another store. The next stop was a women's lingerie store. Sayuki was appalled, thinking Kanata had lost all sense of consideration as her affection meter dropped. She watched him hold up a lacy set and ask Marica if it would look good on her. Sayuki was certain that Marica would be horrified by his actions. Marica, however, was blushing, her mind flashing to a racy scene from one of the manga she had read. To Sayuki's surprise, Kanata purchased the lingerie set for her. Marica then suggested they visit a bookstore. Sayuki watched from the stacks, wondering what Marica could be buying. It was a boys' love manga, and Sayuki was exasperated that Marica would buy such a thing in the middle of a date. Feeling tired from all the chasing, she was about to give up. Then Kanata suggested one last ride, which Marica questioned. He called it a romantic-like ride, piquing her interest. Sayuki wondered if the department store had a Ferris wheel. The romantic ride turned out to be a coin-operated panda. Sayuki was utterly disgusted by the choice. Deciding it was ridiculous and time to go home, she turned to leave. Meanwhile, Kanata and Marica eagerly approached the ride. An employee informed Kanata that two-seat riding was prohibited. Dejected, Kanata apologized to Marica, who said it was unfortunate. Marica pouted in disappointment, which caused her affection meter to suddenly inflate to a dangerous level. Kanata worried that his failed attempt at a romantic ride had displeased her too much as the meter hissed. The meter then ruptured, splashing its contents onto the panda ride. The panda's eyes began to glow as it became contaminated. It suddenly sprang to life with a jolt. The possessed panda ride dashed straight towards Sayuki, who was looking at her phone. Kanata's alter ego panicked, while his original self desperately wondered what he was going to do. Sayuki looked up, surprised to see Kanata and the charging panda. With a powerful roar, Kanata lunged forward and smashed the panda ride to pieces. Both Sayuki and Marica could only stare in shock at the smoking remains. Lying in the rubble, Kanata managed to tell Sayuki he was glad she was okay. His phone began to ring, but before he could answer, he passed out. The girls called his name in alarm. Kanata awoke with a start. He found himself in a hospital room, wondering where he was. A doctor entered the room, asking if he had woken up. The doctor informed him that his right arm was broken and would take 2 months to heal, leaving Kanata shocked at how the day had ended. His right arm was broken, with a 2-month recovery ahead. Kanata found himself laid up in a hospital bed, bored out of his mind. He was shocked this was the outcome of his adventure, and even more so that his powerful, handsome alter ego hadn't reappeared since saving Sayuki. He began to ponder the reason for his alter ego's appearance, wondering if it was tied to Marica's love meter. Lately, the meters had been evolving into strange and cryptic forms, making him question if they were love meters at all. His thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. It was Kokona Mikasa, who had come to visit. She brought a fruit basket from the entire class, and Kanata was delighted to see her. Kokona was glad to see him in good spirits, though he lamented not being able to use his arm. He told her he'd been passing the time watching animal videos. She suggested a channel and leaned in close to show him a video on her phone. Her love meter began to rise as she gushed over how cute the video was. The video reminded Kanata of Kokona's pet dog, Chocola. Kokona happily suggested they visit the dog park together once he recovered. Thinking about a past memory with him made her blush. Kanata noticed her flushed face, asking if she was okay. Flustered, Kokona suddenly asked him to call her by her first name. Kanata was surprised by the sudden request but agreed. She quickly came up with an excuse, declaring them dog-lover friends. He smiled and agreed to call her Kokona, which made her ecstatically shout her approval. Kokona was thrilled they were on a first-name basis, and her love meter popped into a new form, 2 smiling, dancing sunflowers. Kanata was taken aback by the strange, somewhat scary-looking meter. His confusion about the love meters only grew. Kokona prepared to leave, and Kanata thanked her for the visit. She passed by Marica in the hospital corridor, who wondered if she had been visiting Kanata. Marica then knocked on his door herself. Kanata cheerfully welcomed Marica into his room. Marica noted that Kokona had just been there. He explained that Kokona had just dropped off the fruit basket from their classmates. As he talked, he casually mentioned Kokona-san. Hearing him use her first name, Marica's demeanor instantly shifted, and her love meter began to crackle menacingly. Kanata offered her some melon, but Marica claimed she had business to attend to and had to leave. This was a strategic move she had learned to avoid rejection, and she promised to come back tomorrow. The strategy pained her deeply. Kanata, however, was left heartbroken, believing she must hate him. The next day, Kanata tried to make sense of the situation by sketching the various love meters he'd seen. He began to suspect they weren't love meters at all, but rather some kind of monster decks. Just then, another knock came at his door. This time it was Sayuki. She noted how excited he looked. He tried to wave in greeting, but he immediately recoiled in pain from his injured arm, earning a scolding from her for being a moron. Sayuki told him to relax and commented on the large fruit basket from the class. Since it was around dinner time, she offered to cut some fruit for him. Kanata eagerly requested some melon. As she left to borrow a knife, Kanata glanced at his sketchbook and had a sudden, alarming realization. He recalled that Sayuki's love meter had also been terrifying, and he resolved to be careful. When she returned with the sliced melon, he stared at her intently, trying to read her mood. He quickly exclaimed his love for melons. She found his enthusiasm cute, and her love meter appeared, a happy plant monster wearing sunglasses. Kanata figured this meant she was in a good mood. Kanata found it difficult to eat with his left hand. Seeing his struggle, Sayuki resignedly offered to help. Blushing, she held a piece of melon up to his mouth. Kanata hesitated, but she insisted he eat. He took a bite and declared it was delicious. His reaction made Sayuki beam with happiness, her love meter celebrating. She eagerly began stuffing his mouth with more melon, much to his surprise. Once he was finished, Sayuki became serious. She told him it was her fault he got hurt protecting her. She sincerely thanked him from the bottom of her heart. He was glad she was okay. He knew it was his handsome personality that had done the work, but he was still glad he could help. As Sayuki teared up, her love meter transformed yet again, this time into a giant, affectionate cat. While Kanata still didn't understand the meters, he was sure this new form meant that she liked him. Just then, Marica returned as she had promised, slipping into the room to find Kanata and Sayuki sitting close together. The intimate mood completely shattered her plans. She had thought Sayuki was crying, but instead she wore the expression of a girl madly in love. Seeing her with Kanata, who'd never even had a girlfriend, made Marica feel like his sudden popularity was getting out of hand. She recalled all the bizarre events that had been happening lately. She concluded that Kanata's newfound popularity must also be part of this bizarre trend. The next day, she took her concerns to the student council room. Marica explained the situation to her friends, seeking advice, though one complained that the student council wasn't a jack of all trades. Another friend, adjusting her glasses, immediately identified Kitami as the cause of the unknown phenomena, correcting herself that it was due to the love meters. Marica then recounted the time she was locked in the gym. She had checked the lock afterward and found it was perfectly fine. Her friends were shocked to hear the iron door had been forced open. The girl with glasses confirmed there was a good chance Kanata was the one who did it, despite his apparent lack of strength. With a sinister grin, the girl with glasses declared they would interview Kitami as soon as he was released from the hospital, ominously preparing a rope. Meanwhile, Kanata and Sayuki sat together on a park bench, completely unaware of the interrogation that awaited him.